So you're probably thinking, where are the tablet reviews? They've just disappeared from the channel and the website. Well, no, it's because there hasn't really been anything decent out there. But I did manage to find this one, which is the Onda Obook 11 Pro. Now this has a Core M3 7Y30 in there, 4 gigabytes of RAM, and it does have 64 gigabytes of internal eMMC5 storage, which you're probably thinking, uh-oh, that's slow. Yes, but there is an M.2 SATA drive bay in there, so we can put our own SSDs in there to increase the storage capacity and the speed there. Now it does have, I think, wireless AC it is, an optional keyboard, it's running Windows 10 Home, and has a unibody rear housing on it. The screen isn't fully laminated, not at this price point. This one I got here from Banggood, and it cost me $299 US, which I thought was reasonable considering it has got the higher powered Core M3 in it. So let's check this one out here and see if it's a decent tablet or not. So unfortunately it doesn't have the original box, so I can't show you that because they repackaged it. At least I know that this way it should have no damage to it. So that took a minute or so to cut all around the box there. I kind of do wish they would use the original packaging, because getting it like this, it feels almost like a used tablet, even though it's not. It's just not as nice. Having the original packaging would be so much better, of course. So we've got a power plug in here, which is the 2-prong US style. They've included a Type-C adapter. And here's the power supply. So Type-C charging, rated to 12 volts and 3 amps. There's something here about micro SD card. Oh, the slot there at the bottom, just to tell you where it is. User manual in Chinese and Chinese. Okay, even though it says user manual in English, there is no further English on there. Okay. Certificate of quality, so hopefully someone's done their little inspection on this. So here we have the tablet. So you can see it's got a 10-port pogo pin connector at the bottom for the keyboard, so you can reverse it around and you still have the USB ports on that keyboard. Hopefully I'll be able to show you that in the final review of this tablet when it arrives. So starting here from the right side of it, where all the ports are, we've got a microphone, micro SD card slot, full-sized USB 3 port. Now great to see this on here, because other Core M tablets like the Cube Mix Plus lack this and only use a USB 3.1 Type-C port. Then we've got a status LED there, mini HDMI out, and then a Type-C port in there for charging and data, but it'll only be USB 3 spec. It won't be handling, I don't think, it will be handling at least video out, because they've already included that mini HDMI there. And this is one of 2 speakers either side of the tablet. Now on the left side, we've just got the speaker grill, the second speaker, and then another microphone here. So it looks like it's got good stereo separation for the microphones there, one on the left and one on the right. On the top right hand side, we've got the volume buttons and then the power button. Now, unfortunately, these to me feel like they're made out of plastic. They have a little bit of play to them. They aren't exactly quality feeling buttons, give a little bit of a cheap feel to them. So on the back of it, it's all made out of an alloy here. Feels quite solid, but unfortunately only comes in that champagne gold color, which I'm not particularly fond of. This part along here, which is a different tone of gold, this is where the wireless antenna is, and Bluetooth antennas, of course, made out of plastic, so we don't have any problems with the reception and range of those antennas. And then lastly, on the front, we've got these rather large bezels. I mean, they're not too bad. I have seen larger, and it's definitely not fully laminated, the screen. Unfortunately, I can see a bit of a gap between the digitizer glass on the front here, then the IPS below, of approximately, I would say, around 1 millimeter. It's not the slimmest and it's not the largest, but still not that great. Front-facing camera is a 2 megapixel one that should be capable of 720p video. And then of course down below the capacitive home button there, the Windows home button. Okay, so it powered up very quick. It already has a pre-created account on there, so that's Banggood, I think. They've gone in there, they've done their inspection, their test. It's an account called G. If you're not happy with that, you can do a factory reset, of course. For me, I'm not too bothered about that because they shouldn't have put any spyware or anything on there. But if you're one of those people that wants to be safe, then definitely recommend doing that. So we have free space here, 38.5 gigabytes, which is not a lot. That is really quite poor considering that we've got a Core M3 on here as well. We'd want to have at least 128 gigabytes. But as mentioned in the start, we've got that M.2 22 by 42 SATA 3 SSD bay on there. So we'll probably be using that because 38 gigabytes, let's face it, that's not enough. Once you start installing your applications and things, that'll run out really quick. And Windows 10 Home fully activated, so they haven't used a dodgy Windows 10 license or one of those temporary licenses and later you have to use your own key, which is great. Don't have to worry about that. Now over into the device manager. Now there's a pleasant surprise here. We've got a dual band Intel wireless AC chipset in here, but it's not the typical 3165. This one here is the 7265, which we often see in more higher end devices. This is the same chipset that's in my Xiaomi Mi Notebook 2.5 and it performs really well, even better than the already good Intel wireless AC 3165. So that's a nice surprise there. The eMMC drive is a Toshiba 064G38 and that's eMMC 5 spec. So I was curious on just how fast that eMMC would be, and those are the speeds there. So clearly it is an eMMC 5 spec because it's got sequential 259 reads, but the write speeds there are quite low, 62 only. 4Ks aren't too bad, but I can say so far, yeah, I think I will be putting in a SATA 3 SSD in this. Now I wanted to have a look at the screen here too, just to show you the quality of it, and it's not a bad IPS panel that they've put in here. 11.6 inches, 1080p, and the brightness at the moment is on 75%. So here we go, that's 100, and at 2%, very dim. So that will be great for late use. So nighttime use, things like that, that should be perfect for that kind of low brightness, which I'm happy to see manufacturers doing. A lot aren't putting that lower brightness on there anymore. And then back to 75%. So colors, that's a video that on there. Looking good. Reasonably deep blacks. The panel itself looks, I wouldn't say warm white or even cool white. It's almost neutral, maybe slightly towards the cooler white, but not bad. And the viewing angles, IPS, shouldn't be too bad. Although you can see it looks a bit darker there, but I think that's because I've got the two screen protectors on. The first layer of it I need to pull off, which I'll do later on. Now, if you're wondering just how thick it is, it comes in just under 10 millimeters. And the weight of it is 881 grams, so slightly heavier, on the heavy side really. If you combine that with the keyboard, which will probably have a counterweight in it, it's probably going to end up being well over 1.5 kilos. Or even 1.8 or something like that with a combined total weight. I'll find out when I get my keyboard eventually. So both Battery Bar and HW Info are reporting that the battery capacity is 48 watt hours, which I don't believe is possible. That's not going to fit in here, would it? Now, Banggood's website say that the battery capacity is 6,000 milliamp hours. Perhaps it's two 6,000 milliamp hour cells. So our battery capacity could be somewhere around 38 watt hours. I'll have to check that out in my final review where I'm going to have to sit down and use this and drain the battery. At the moment, it's giving me a full run time of about 5 hours and 44 minutes, which I'm leading to believe that figure actually, because most of the Core M's I've tested get around 5.5 to 6 hours max. So if you look really close at the screen, the IPS panel, you will see individual pixels. You can see right here, I've zoomed right up into the screen here. And if you have a look, for example, the notifications there, where you can see the 3 in the circle, that's not going to be as sharp as one of those ultra high res screens or anything. But having a 1080p panel with a Core M3 should help our performance. Okay, so the weakest point of this tablet so far seems to be the speakers, maxing out at 71 decibels max so far, which is not really that loud. They are quite quiet. I wish they were a lot louder than that. So that is disappointing. The speakers, not good at all. Now let's have a look at the internals here and how to add our own M.2 SATA SSD. So there are two screws on the bottom which I have already removed. I've got a pry tool, which is just a plastic credit card, which is actually an old SIM card, or a guitar pick actually works really well too, and a suction cup. I'll show you why you need that. So with the suction cup, it's a little hard to do with the camera and tripod in my way here, but pull down on here, you can see how that's opened up between the plastic where the antennas are, and then I'll be able to insert this card here into that gap that's opened up now, and go along to proceed to unclip all those little clips, being extra careful not to damage anything. And you just have to go around the whole edges here. Now the corners will be the most difficult part from experience doing this on the Cube Mix Plus and other similar tablets. Just take your time, go around real easy, and best to use this to start, because I found that just using the card by itself wasn't going to work. Okay, so once you get both of the sides unclipped, then you can just use the back panel and push it down, because we've got, of course, that 10-pin pogo port on the bottom there, and that then should lift out just like that. And I can see that actually, look, they've used a little thermal pad there to transfer heat onto the back of the case, which is a good move. It's something I would do. And a very thick looking copper heatsink here. Right there you can see. So that's our heatsink, and there is our SATA slot there. So that's the M.2 22 by 42 is what you're going to need there. Let's just zoom into that for you. And you'll put your SSD in there, remove that one screw, slot it in, and you'll have to reinstall Windows onto that, or the other method is take a Windows image backup or use Acronis backup or other backup programs and then restore that onto the SSD. But overall here, the build quality looks reasonably decent. I like that they've put a very thick copper heatsink on there and the thermal pad. That's something I would do. Internal metal frame here too is a support there for the motherboard. The outer frame, of course, is plastic that everything's screwed into. And there are the two battery cells which look to be, just judging, I'd say maybe 4,000 milliamp hours each, something around that sort of figure. But I will have the full battery life in my up and coming full review. Now just testing here, I've removed the screw that holds the SSD in place to see if we could fit a 22 by 60 mil one here, which is the medium sized M.2 SSD. And yeah, it would fit in there, but you're going to have to get a Dremel or something to cut down that screw thread in there. So if you level that, smooth that out, then this will fit in. Just hold it down with a bit of tape or something. It should be fine because the slot itself will hold that in place. This, of course, fits in perfectly. That's the 22 by 42. And then you screw that in place and you're set. I recommend going with a Transcend brand one. This is 256 gigabytes because it's the fastest. You could, of course, put up to 512. I think it's the largest size, and 128. But I would personally go for 256 gigabytes because I feel that even 128 won't be enough for most people. And just a tip here, when you put it back, make sure you start with the pogo port pins at the bottom. So you slot that in first, then clip in, same way as we took the cover off it. As you start off from the bottom, work your way around the sides, and finish with the top. Be careful with the plastic buttons too up there. So it does support a stylus, and it's like this one here. It's one of those active styluses that you charge up with a micro USB cable. Now, these styluses are not very good. This isn't the official one. This is a TechTablets one, and it doesn't work on it. None of my styluses that I have work, and I'm not going to buy the stylus for this because I know that it's quite useless. These styluses are just more like an accurate pointer. That's it, because there are no pressure levels, and the palm rejection only works when the stylus is touching the screen. There is no hover function. They are really quite bad, these kind of styluses. So I wouldn't be buying this if you wanted to use a stylus. Check out the Wacom enabled Cube Mix Plus or the i7 Book for that. Okay guys, so that's the video there. So far it's looking like a decent tablet considering the spec you're getting. Okay, only 4 gigabytes of RAM. It's a shame it doesn't have 8 gigabytes, but then it does sell for around $300 US, And I think you're getting a reasonable tablet so far, but I've got to check out thermals, of course, benchmarks, and then the keyboard. So I'll be back with all of that in the full review. But the positives are so far that it seems quick and snappy. The touchscreen is accurate. It's responsive to touch, no problems with that. It's not a bad IPS panel they've used, the 11.6 inch one. Now we do have an eMMC on there, which is a shame that it doesn't come with a SSD. Of course, it's a lot faster, but we can install our own. However, it's not for everyone, of course, having to crack the tablet open. It's not that easy, and then you can, of course, increase the storage, but it's a bit of a mission to get in there. We've got a slightly better wireless AC chipset than we normally see. Normally we see the Intel wireless AC dual band 3165, and this is the 7265, which has just better performance overall. So those aspects of it are looking quite good. As mentioned, I'll be back in the full review with everything else. Thanks a lot for watching, and I do hope to see you back with the full review and more up and coming videos that I'll have on the channel.